Hi kids, this is Judge James of Living for Crits and Glowburn here with a special video for those of you out there that I thought I would do for the holiday season. You know, with Christmas or whatever holidays you celebrate at home around the corner, and Santa's getting ready to go travel around, Santa Sezracon maybe. One of the best gifts that you can give is a Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game. And this really is the best way to open up some smiles on Christmas morning or whatever day that you celebrate gift giving in your family. That said, I've heard some comments, or more like I've read some comments, because it's fix my Santa hat, my Penn State Santa hat here. It's 2020 and no one leaves their house to listen to people, right? I've heard some comments that this book's intimidating. And you know what? In some ways it is. Besides the fact that the art in here is dangerous and just looking at it too long can just make your soul explode. It's a huge friggin' book. We get it, all right? Look at that. That is a ton of information. It's over 450 pages of just gaming goodness. Hear that? I'm just putting it down. I'm not slamming it. But there should be no need for intimidation. So I thought I would do a special video here for all yins out there that think that this is a game that's hard to master. I should tell you, if I could master this game, anyone could master this game. And you don't even have to master this game to enjoy this game. This is a game to be enjoyed. This is a game to be this is a game that nourishes the soul. It's to be experienced, not just by the player, but by the judge, the GM as well. And what I thought I'd do today is just break down the 450 plus pages to show you visually how this really isn't that complicated of a book. All right. So first off, there was a comment by a cool dude on Twitter just saying that the book, the tables and everything looks intimidating. And yeah, it's one book, and it's a very thick book. And I know people out there don't want to read this many pages. But how many of y'all out there have like 3 books for D&D 5th edition? I think it's more pages than this. I think it is. And no one reads the entire monster manual. You skim that. No one reads every spell. You skim that. Well, it's no different here. Sorry, I'm going to get the shine off my forehead here. It's no different here with this book, but it's just one book. But it is a book you might want to read cover to cover because it's a really good read. So let's look at the book, all right? Let's look at what could be intimidating. And remember, a lot of these pages are adorned with fantastic art. So you know what? Yeah, the book's thick, but it's because the book takes so many moments to transport you to an awesome world. Like, you get such cool art in this book, and this takes up pages. Well, you don't have to read page 125. You experience this page. I put markers in the top. And I thought that having these little, this is not very what's it called? This isn't very fancy, but I like break out visually how much is here you have to know, how much you should know, and how much you don't need to know when you're playing Dungeon Crawl Classics. First things first, we have everything for, we get past the table contents. We have the basics here of what you need to know before you get to character advancement, all right? Character classes, all right? You're going to run DCC for the first time. You're going to want to run a DCC funnel, okay? 0 level adventure. This is it. This is all you got to worry about. So when you get the game, just read this and then read the module, and you're good. And that's all you need. It's literally pages. Where is it at here? It's next to nothing. It's pages like 13 to 27. It's 14 pages. And you know what's even better? On the introduction page, there is a segment called How is this game different from what I have played before? And the core mechanic. So if you are a fan, aficionado of D&D 5th edition, 4th edition, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, 1st edition, basic D&D, Pathfinder, any of those games, this is going to tell you the basics of the game in one page of how it's different. How there is a dice chain system that moves up and down from a D20 up to a D24, down to a D20, D16. And yeah, you need some special dice, but they're not hard to find, at least not in 2020. And you can always use the Purple Sorcerer app to get dice for the system. So that's it. That's the basic rules you need to know, at least off the bat, to run your very first adventure. There's more in the game, of course. So let's go into that. Let's go into how much for character creation for classes do you have to worry about. And I know all of you out there have played games where there's whole splat books for character generation. All right, here's character generation. That's it. Look at the percentage of the book. So we start at page 28, essentially, with the cleric, and we end at page 72. I'm sorry, 73 with the end of equipment. That's what, 50 pages? Something like that? Not even 50 pages. And a lot of that is friggin' art. Like this dude just breaking down a halfling village or something. Who knows what he's doing? So you've got the classes. There's only 7 classes to worry about. You got your warriors, you got your clerics, you got your thieves, you got your wizards, you got your elves, got your dwarves, and got your halflings. And if you feel like mastering 7 classes is hard, keep in mind that elves and wizards are very similar. Dwarves and warriors are very similar. So really, there's like 5 classes or class builds you need to worry about. Fighty guys and gals with the warriors and dwarves. Wizardy guys and gals with the elves. You got your clerics. You get your thieves. And then halflings are a bit different. Halflings are kind of an amalgamation rooted in the luck mechanic. Okay, it's not a lot. So less than 50 pages for classes. Okay. Again, a lot of you have a player's handbook out there for D&D, which is a lot bigger. All right. If you're going to run DCC for the first time, not a bad idea to at least skim the combat and magic segment. This piece of the game is the core of DCC. And we're talking pages 76 through 128. So 51 pages. And again, here we are with the percentage to the book. So we're up to page 128. And when you get to this point, you've really read about everything you need to not just be able to run the game the first time, but to run multiple sessions. You've learned a lot, and you don't need to memorize any of this. A lot of these pages are critical charts. I don't have critical tables memorized. Someone had mentioned online, the charts, the critical tables are can be daunting. They're not. All right. I have no idea what's going to happen when a warrior rolls a 20 on a crit table on table 4. I have no clue. As a judge, I have no idea. I do have this nice little tool here, this DCC reference guide, which is great to have to just open this up to the critical table and have this near me. And some of you might say, why not just say it does double damage? What's the point of having these charts? Well, when your dwarf, your 4th level dwarf hits that wizard, rolls a 11 on the crit chart, and strike reduces face to formless mass of flesh and bone fragments, inflicts 2d12 damage with a strike, and the foe has trouble making hard consonants. That's badass. That's interesting. That tells a story. And that's why, as a judge, I keep coming back to this game. The charts are there to show, to create experiences. It's not about just giving you a mechanic to say 2d12 extra damage. Big whoop. Oh, this does 1d12 damage with the strike, and the foe must suffer a fort save or suffer amnesia and stun for 1d4 rounds. No, it's a frontal lobotomy attack on a 18 on that crit chart. Does it slow the game down? Not really. No more than having to decide what's advantage and disadvantage and then figure out afterwards like how many attacks you're going to get per round. No slower than like Pathfinder or D&D 3.5. Combat in that game took friggin' forever. I remember I played it. You know, I get this reputation online that I've never played D&D or something like that. I have played a lot of D&D. Tons. You know, I just stopped at the end of 4th edition, but I've dabbled a bit in 5th. And again, not a bad game. But this game is not hard to learn. Do not be intimidated by it. But these crit tables, they tell a story. And they tell a story not just for the players, but for the GM. Your wizard just had a frontal lobotomy. How is you... That was your big bad, is a frontal lobotomy. How are you getting through that? Are you going to say, hand wave? Well, it doesn't happen to him. You could. You can come up and say, well, guess what? His brain, he is somewhere else, and he is some kind of weird clone thing. Or you could say... Yeah, you one-shot the big bad. That's the kind of story people remember, which is why DCC is so great. Okay. You got this giant book, 450 plus pages. There's a giant core of this book, though. There's a giant middle that I think people think is more intimidating than it is, and that's spells. Keep in mind that this book is like a 175-page spell book in the middle. Look at that. This is magic. Right in the middle. That's a lot of the book. That's like a third of the book, right? It's just spells. And there is no need to have every spell memorized. I could not tell you what Lokaramon's Unerring Hunter does. And I have run 200 plus games of Dungeon Crawl Classics and multiple campaigns, 2 ongoing weekly campaigns now. I don't know what this level 5 spell does. I don't need to worry about it until the player learns it. And then the player can figure out what the spell does. Or if I have to do a monster with it, or a bad guy with it, that's great. I friggin' roll on the chart, and it just tells you what it does. Oh, D20 plus 9. I got a 26. All right, well, this spell conjures an unerring hunter to locate, capture, or kill his enemies. It can take nearly any twisted form the caster desires. And, oh, there we go. It tells me what happens. You do not need to know all of these tables. It's not required. Don't feel intimidated by it. Just feel like this is your spell book. You know, your page could say, I have Magic Missile. I have Fireball. Ooh, this is my character sheet. I have it. And I know if I cast it as 66 damage. Or you could be at the table as a wizard with your spell book. Your spell book just happens to be a DCC core book. So, magic is a huge chunk of this game, of this book. So when you hear that loud sound is the spells calling to you within. Okay. Let's get away from magic. Now, once you've run a few games of Dungeon Crawl Classics, you may want to start developing your own adventures. Maybe you've run Portal into the Stars, and maybe you've run Sailors on Starless Sea, and maybe you've moved into running some second and third level adventures, but you want to write some of your own. Chapter 6 starts with quests and journeys. I just lost a marker. So now, after you've passed this badass art on this page, you're on page 306. And, you go from there all the way to page 375. So yeah, it's about 70 pages of GM material and charts and things that don't have to be a part of your game. For instance, all of the patrons are in here. So if your elf or wizard have a patron, they're listed in this segment here. If your wizard has a Find Familiar spell, my hair keeps popping out. The rules for how Find Familiar work is in here. It's in this chunk, okay? These are occasional rules. These aren't everyday rules. You're not going to have to figure out what Idgirl, or I call it Itgirl. I know it's not Itgirl. What Idgirl, the world root. You don't even know what Idgirl, the world root does. You just need to know it exists. And you know what? Honestly, if your campaign is your own design, you don't even need this. Half the Wizards of the games I play and run don't even have patrons. So don't worry about it. Don't feel this is intimidating. The next segment in this book is monsters. And this is a part of the book that is, not exceptionally long. Page 378 to page 434. So again, healthy chunk of the core book, but not as long as a monster manual. And a lot of this is charts. It's special crits for monsters because you don't want the same crit table of a dragon or a giant that you do of a, goblin. If a giant rolls a 5 on a crit table, it should be different than if a goblin rolls it. A giant flattens the PC. The crit tables of giants and dragons are really deadly. And they should be. They're giants and dragons. So that ogre, if you're going to use the giant crit table with an ogre if you want, yeah, it's going to be pretty cool to use this one that can crush the PC's legs. Or they get to roll 3 times and use all 3, and you get a crushing blow, a broken arm, and a ricochet blow where it hits somebody else. This is cool. In the back of the book, you have appendices. And that takes you up to page, the 470s. Really, once you get to page 466, you're in the index. What are in the appendices? What do you have to worry about back here? You don't got to worry about any of it. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Just enjoy it. Back here are rules for curses, because you might want to deal with those. Back here is the chart for languages. Back here is inspirational reading. You don't need to know that. But you should read through Appendix N and take a look. I found the inspirational reading chart on page 444 to be especially interesting. Before I even knew what Lankmar was, or what it was, like the depth of what it was about. I saw it back here, and I started reading it. Started reading Lankmar before DCC Lankmar came out. So this is a way to discover some material that you don't know about. It lists podcasts to listen to. Hey, Goodman Games, why isn't Glowburn in here? Like, what the heck? Why is there no love for me and Mark and Hector and Forrest and Bill? Next printing should have Glowburn, especially since we're going to be covering other things besides MCC. I don't think we're featured in the MCC corebook either, though. Just saying. Then you have 2 adventures in the back. And my copy has Portal Under the Stars and The Abbot of the Woods. And then that's it. There's not anything in this book to be scared of except the idea of losing your soul to Dungeon Crawl Classics and joining the cult of everyone, of all the crazy, rabid superfans. And yes, we are crazy. It's true. And it's okay. It's a good kind of crazy. But as I sit here, moments away from running a DCC game for a good cause, I'm going to be running in a couple minutes Brendan LaSalle's Hole in the Sky. I just want to take a minute to say this is like the perfect Christmas gift for anyone, whether or not they put a role-playing game before or not. Give this book to them and they will uncover, boundless joy and entertainment, especially right now in a time we all really need it. 2020, COVID-19, political strife. We need joy right now. And this book can bring it. And I feel in a way that other games don't, which is why I'm such an evangelist for this game. I do not get paid for this. There's no free swag coming my way, really. And even when people want to send me a copy of something, I insist on paying for it because I believe creators should be reimbursed for what they create. So I hope this helped you. If it did, and that's great. If you are someone who's watching this video who has talked to your fellow gamers and friends about playing Dungeon Crawl Classics and they feel intimidated or scared, please share this video with them and let Judge James walk them through the glories of the Dungeon Crawl Classics core book and how it really is not a beast to be tamed, not a monster to be challenged. This is a 450 plus page ally in your crusade against, boring gaming. So have a great day. Have a great holiday season. And I will see you all on Living for Crits and on Glowburn. Take care.